What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Danny the Bull, and I'm back with another live stream. Been a little out of it lately. Well, first of all, I went back to work a few weeks ago, so I had some good momentum going in the summer. I was getting a lot of content out. Then I went back to work, and then I got sick. I had a viral infection for about a week and a half. I was supposed to stream this week. I was going to try to power through it. I was going to go live with my collectibles, but was getting dizzy and I had a little viral infection. So I have to cancel that, put some things on the sideline, but I'm feeling a little better. And I wanted to come through with some content, with some thoughts on some things, right? So we talk about Veve, obviously, and things that are happening within the NFT space. A recent article by Rolling Stone that came out talking about how 95% of NFTs have gone to zero or dead, are now worthless. We'll dig into that and talk about how Veve is doing overall with their user base, recent drops. Talk about the OMI token, of course, and where I think it's going, and talk to you guys and see what you guys want to discuss. So be active in the chat. Let's hear what you guys want to talk about. As always, I love interacting. We got JMET08 in the house. Let's effing go. I'm going to try to feed you some knowledge, try to drop some, I try to collect information and highlight interesting ideas and information that I come across, and just talk about it and give my own perspective. I'll give it a couple minutes for people to filter in. We got about 11 people in so far. It's a Friday night. Let's talk some Veve and OMI. It's easy to follow the crowd and speak bad about a project, no matter how many moon boys or people with positive outlook. We are still the minority. Yeah, so it's 100% easy to jump and dump on a project when we're in the midst of a bear market, when everything is down. And that's kind of one of the points that I want to make in this video, in this stream. A couple people reacted with anger at the thumbnail because it says, "Is Veve dying a slow death?" That wasn't even meant to be clickbaity. I think it's something that's worth discussing, right? When you talk about a nascent field, a brand new technology like NFTs, you have to talk about the long-term survival rate, right? What's going to make it? What's not going to make it? And when you see Veve, slowing down in terms of how they perform on drops, what your vault value is looking like recently compared to, a few months ago, you have to talk about, what's the long-term outlook. You have to always consider, is this going to be a long-term viable play? My answer is yes. I believe that, it is, but I'm always open to the idea that things could go sideways, things could fail. It's important to be objective, is the point. All right. So some people got triggered by the thumbnail and lashed out on Twitter. They're like, I'm not going to watch this one. Sorry if I triggered you, but we're going to talk about it. It's all part of a bear market, and surviving a bear market, and many companies, projects in crypto, obviously more so in the NFT space, they are not surviving the bear market. All right. We know that. We've seen many drop recently, many die and wither away. We're going to talk about Veve today and how they're doing and what I think they can do, my perspective, what I think they can do to, kind of improve a little. And also what they're nailing and getting right. Let's see who we got in the house. We got Blase13 in the house. What's good? Dino Dragon, what's up, buddy? I look at these poo coins that have 20 million in volume, while we have 500,000 need exchanges. 100% need exchanges. And thankfully, limited utilities has been introduced, and I think exchanges for OMI are going to happen in due time. And when that happens, I do think that it'll be bullish. But we're definitely going to talk about OMI. I want to start with Veve stuff, get into OMI. And as always, I'll be going back and forth with the chat to interact with you guys. So drop questions, drop ideas, thoughts, etc. I'm going to present my screen and go through some things. So this is, I don't know if that's, let's see. I don't know if you guys can see the Rolling Stone article I just pulled up. Let me know if you see it. I might not have done this correctly. Let me see. No, I think I'm good now. So here we go. This is what I was getting at. So this is an article that came out this week. Your NFTs are actually finally totally worthless. It's a very definitive statement, right? It's a broad statement that is kind of talking about NFTs in general. It states that a new report from industry researchers finds that 95% of the once hyped crypto assets have hit rock bottom valuation. They use the Bored Ape as their clickbait or their illustration. Damn, I can't log in right now. Let me try to pull it up. I'm going to summarize it. Basically, they're talking about how everything's going to zero, how there was a lot of overhype, how there was over printing of NFTs, and how supply greatly outweighed demand, and how everything is now going to zero. And it speaks about it with a sense of finality, as if to say that the whole space is, kind of like going the way of Beanie Babies. So it's interesting. There was another tweet from someone this week, and I'll share that. That kind of used this whole narrative and used Veve as clickbait. I think I'm sharing the wrong thing again, guys. Bear with me. I feel like here it is. All right, give me a second. This is it. So this is a tweet from Culture Crave. I'm not really sure what they do at Culture Crave, but we're talking about NFTs here. And they're referring to the same article that Rolling Stone was citing. A new study shows that 95% of NFT values have dropped to zero. More than 23 million people's investments are now worthless. What's interesting is that they use Veve collectibles as their, illustration, which is a bit of one. It's ironic because Vive's actually in the 5% that have not gone to zero, right? And it's also, I think, a bit of manipulation and, trying to, it's engagement farming, right? Knowing that the Veve fam is very engaged on Twitter. So it's got 3.4 million views on this. So I guess all news is good news, right? Vive's getting some attention right here. But again, you had people like My Collectibles chiming in. The digital collectibles you are showing are on Veve Official, and they have not gone to zero. Vive's doing great with the only fully licensed big IP in the digital collecting space. I retweeted it, pointed out something similar. And I think we all knew, everyone knew, if you were caught up in the NFT craze The writing was on the wall. Everyone said it. Gary Vee, who was one of the biggest proponents, or is still one of the biggest proponents of the technology and of this in the space, talked about how 90% of them are going to zero. We talked about how the same way that crypto winter comes, there's going to be a winter for this space, this NFT space. And that's what we're experiencing. Okay, we're in crypto winter, NFT winter. Many are going to zero. All right. We knew this, we expected it. Now, Veve has also suffered, right? I think that was also to be expected. But we're going to talk about how they're doing and what I think they can do better. But none of this was unexpected. If you've been in crypto for any amount of time, we knew this was coming, and now the time is here. Nifty's is dead. Recur is dead. All right. So we're seeing some, I wouldn't say they're big, but they had some big backing, right? They had, Recur had Steve Cohen behind it, 3A, whatever his firm is, the hedge fund, 3A Capital. Big money. Winklevoss twins, I think, were in that. Gary Vee himself was an investor, a backer of that. So we've seen some companies die off. Veve is not dead. There has been a slowdown. All right, I'm going to get into some of the numbers on their user base. We're going to talk about some of the drops, but is Veve dying a slow death? I'll tell you off the bat, they're definitely slowing down. I don't think they're dying. All right, the Aladdin drop today is a symbol of, I think, their relative strength. Right? They were able to generate $140,000 today on that one Aladdin drop. So they're still generating real world revenue and still adding. They're still growing, right? One of the things when you talk about, is a company dying, or are they, dying a slow death? You can look at, for Veve, I look at a few things. One, they're still generating regular revenue, right? Less than before, but it's still substantial. When many projects don't generate any revenue, they're still forming partnerships and building, right? So they recently partnered with Alibaba. They partnered with Veve. They've partnered with, they've paid Cavernous, right, to develop their Veveverse. So they're still building, they're still developing partnerships, and they're still hiring people. We've seen them onboard new people, and people question that and say, but where are these new people? Right? Well, we know that, in the last year, key people like Nestor and Mitch have been added to payroll. We know that there's a blockchain team now working on Omi. We've seen new people putting out content videos on the Akomi site. So they're adding personnel, right? While other companies are slashing, cutting back in a bear market and literally dying off, they're still building. All right. So no, they're not dying. That's not to say, though, that they're bulletproof and that everything is like a lock and a guarantee, because I think it's important also to be objective. And long term, while I think Veve has a good core foundation of passionate collectors, I'll call them, right? They're collectors, and people who are truly dedicated and love the product. It resonates with them. People who got tattoos, they want to get married in the Veveverse. You have this passionate fan base. Over time, they still need to grow that user base out, right? And that ultimately will determine their long-term sustainability, survivability, if that's a word. But it's their ability to grow this whole thing out. And I do think that there is a path towards that. I think that a lot of the issues that they're experiencing now, or that we're seeing in terms of declining vault value is we're in the heart of a bear market, the belly of the beast. And also, I want to talk about edition sizes in a second and what I think that they can do to kind of offset some of these things. But let's see who we got right now up in here. We're up to about 30 people so far. Varying Viewpoint says good morning. So I guess it's somewhere else where you are. I'm in New York and it's evening. We got General 69, still no tier. Yeah, this is talking about Omi. Correct. JH, shout out from New York City. What's up, Jay? My 3 sitcoms of all time, any era. I'm gonna highlight this. I'm gonna come back to this. I got Davy Boy in the house. We got Mr. V in the house. So I'm gonna get back to this chat in a second. I want to talk about one thing that I checked out. I did a dive into. Shout out to Veve Fox, who does a lot of great data. She just released a video today. If you're not subscribed to Veve Fox, I suggest you sub to her channel. I'll post a link in the description a little later. But she had a similar conversation in her video today where she was discussing, is Veve, are they growing, right? Or is it just like bots and whatever? And are there any new active users? And she tracks the wallets, and her data suggests or shows that Veve is adding new users to the platform. It is at a much slower pace, however, than obviously a year ago. She tracked in the video, she breaks down January through August of 2023 and talks about new active wallets in Veve. All right. And it's pretty much they're averaging right now about 1,000 new users per month. All right. In January, it started off with about 1,500 new users on the app. February had 1,100. March, almost 1,500. April, 1,100. A slowdown in May and June of about 550 to 600 new users. But July, there was an uptick of 1,000, and August, another 1,000 new wallets created on Veve. So those are not bots, they're active. And her data shows that 7 months after those January new wallets, I believe 33% of them are still active. All right, so there is some retention there. So again, they're not big numbers, right? But there are new people being introduced to Veve, and some of them are sticking, right? 30% of them. And I don't know in terms of like the collectibles industry, right? Like how sticky the product, like what targets they reach, right? So if they onboard 100 new users, what percent of retention are they aiming for? But to me, I think a third of them, 33%, sounds like a decent number of retention. Now they're not mind-blowing numbers, right? But that's still, 9,000 new wallets added this calendar year in the heart of a bear market. So while other projects are being abandoned and other NFT companies are going out of business, there is still growth on Veve. Okay, now, one of the things, though, I think that they need to do is fix their edition sizes, because I think that their edition sizes are not commensurate with their current user base. And that kind of leads to some issues. Let me pull up. If we go through, where is this? I think I shared the wrong screen. That's my problem. Give me 1 second. Let me remove this. Let me share my screen again. Let me try this one. No, I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna share my screen. If we look at recent drops, if you look at Lamborghini, right? Um, didn't sell out. Everything except the secret rare is under retail. If you look at, I think Mr. Living Aloha actually had a good tweet that I will bring up. He talks about the number of the percentage of drops that have gone under retail. And I think it's interesting. And it's something that I think they can improve if they fix their edition sizes. And here it is. So Living Aloha posted this. He provides good information. Follow him. He also has a YouTube channel. Veve drop analysis. Prices continue to plummet as 89% of the drops since July 27th are below the retail price. That's almost 90%, right? 33% of the items minted for the drop are unsold. Drop revenue is roughly 2.7 million. All right, so a couple things. I think it's okay for not everything has to go above retail. I think not everything has to sell out. All right. I'm not of the belief that they have to sell out everything and you need to double your money in every drop. But I do think that more of the drops should retain their value. And the fact that they're not, right, I think that speaks to a missizing of editions. Okay. And I think that when you have the preponderance of drops going under retail, one, you users lose confidence, right, in the product, because why purchase something if you're within minutes, it's guaranteed, it's 90% guaranteed to go down in value. So there's that aspect of it. You also have something like called buyer's exhaustion, right, where people just run out of funds. If you're not growing the user base, then you have the same people putting money into the app. And when you have large edition sizes and everything's going under, people get tired of it. They're less likely to go for drops. I think that they would actually generate more money if they were to adjust their edition sizes. Now, Veve's not alone in this, because I look at McFarland, and if any of you guys went, I went for the Batmobile drop. I think that was the Batmobile. First of all, it's FA Batmobile. It's iconic. I think they had a huge opportunity to create headlines and draw a lot of attention to the platform. But there were 1,500 minted. Now, 1,500 Batmobiles on Veve, I think, is a fair number. But McFarlane has a fraction of users that Veve has. And so what you saw yesterday was, I think, a third of the Batmobiles not selling, right? I think they only sold about 800. And so I think that if I believe strongly in creating supply, I mean, playing with the supply to increase demand. I think the collectibles, the whole industry thrives on that. And I point to the sneaker market as an example. If you look at how Yeezy built his brand, or how Nike built their brand with a lot of their big drops, they released them in limited editions, created hype around them, made them hard to get, highly sought after, popped the secondary market, and then opened up to the masses. And I'm not suggesting that Veve makes their editions so low that no one can get them. But I think that they need to adjust their edition sizes for their current user base. I think it's really important, because when you have 90% of your inventory going under retail, what message does that send to the people buying it, right? And so those are my thoughts on on edition sizes. Let me jump back into the chat here. I'll answer this question now. Favorite 3 sitcoms of all time? Curb Your Enthusiasm. What's the second? Sitcoms. Man, I don't know. I'm not a big sitcom guy anymore. Maybe Seinfeld was a good one in the 90s. And What's Happening back in the 70s, man. Hell yeah, What's Happening? Newkirk. What's good, Newkirk? Dino Dragon, Bear Market Blues. Yes. And I think that Veve can do great things in the bear market because of their vibrant community. And they can actually stand out more in the bear market by adjusting their edition sizes. So the Stan Lee drop was a perfect example. And I forget the numbers, but it was very affordable. I think it was like $15. It wasn't over minted. And it got tons of headlines. I think that there's sometimes they hit the mark exactly right on their drops. I think if they did that more, that they would completely stand out as a company that is not only surviving the bear market, but thriving in it and still doing well. Which reminds me of a tweet from that I highlighted. And this is actually from Veve Vault, who is sometimes outspoken about Veve, right? And is very critical oftentimes. But he was responding to this tweet from this guy named Nemesis, who I've never heard of. But Nemesis says, putting money in Veve is an instant loss. Is it still a thing? And Vault says, literally every drop is profitable if you get the best rarity or a good serial number. There's always opportunity to snipe and flip in the market for profits after each drop. Unlike most NFT platforms, Veve is still building. So I think this is a really good point here, right? Is that there are still opportunities in Veve on the secondary market if you're playing it right, and that Veve is still building while others have crumbled. I think that if they fixed their edition sizes, that they, like I said, instead of just surviving the bear market, they could truly thrive in it. Because you see, like Aladdin, they made $140,000 in revenue today. They generated off Aladdin, which is great for them. But if you look at how it's performing on secondary, I think the rare, the genie is 50% under, as is the other one. I forget. Aladdin himself is, I think, 50% under. And the ultra rare, whatever the most rare is something like $60. So what is that? 50% over. So it doesn't inspire confidence to go for the next drop that's comparable, right? And I think that if they reduce their edition sizes, they could potentially do two things: generate more revenue and create a stronger secondary market. Because a lot of people also point to the fact that they're collectibles. You should, when you buy what you like, and you shouldn't care about the secondary market. But to me, that's kind of flawed because, one, there's a secondary market built into the app. So the drops are inextricably tied to the secondary market. And the first thing everyone does is look to the secondary market to see how it's performing, right? So it's linked there automatically. Two, yes, they're collectibles. However, they're different from physical collectibles, right? When you buy a physical collectible, right, like these guys, like I bought this Anchorman guy, right? I bought him. When I bought him, there wasn't a secondary market. Like you have to like go on eBay or whatever. But that's not the reason you buy him. I buy him to display him here. And when I go down Walmart or wherever I bought him at, and if I buy them at retail, there's not another aisle right next to it, 50% off, right? So it's a little different. That's why that counter argument of who cares what the secondary price market value is? It's a collector's app. I think that's a flawed argument. And I think they need to protect the secondary market in order to increase enthusiasm, um, belief in the product, and confidence. I guess confidence, the right word, and really, like I said, thrive in the bear market instead of just surviving the bear market. Um, my thoughts. Let's jump into the chat here. Any project's goal right now is just to survive the bear market. This is time to buckle down and spend money wisely. Yeah, agree with that. Definitely time to buckle down. That's also the thing, is that people are spending their money more wisely. That's what's kind of like, we're in the bear market, right? In a bull market, when coins are popping off, money flows from Bitcoin to Ethereum to altcoins. And last cycle, it rounded out into the NFTs. And all those profits were then taken and put into NFTs, another speculative asset. And people pumped them and were able to flip and make money. All that liquidity is out now, right? That money's not there. Also, Veve is competing in all NFTs, any project right now. You're also competing with the crypto market. So when I have money to spend and I'm thinking about where to allocate my money, is it collectibles / like NFTs if it's an investment for you? Or am I going to try to load up and get that whole coin for Bitcoin? Am I going to buy more Ethereum? Am I going to buy more of these load up on alts in the bear market? And so, yeah, part of this for Veve is surviving it. And I think that they will survive, I'm sure. And then once we get to a bear market, I think we see things turn around. But I do think that there are things they can do in the here and now to strengthen their position, grow their user base, and come out stronger. Davey Boy, they need to give some sneak peeks of the Vaultaholics. Yes, Veveverse, to get people talking again. Don't know why it's all so secretive. Yeah, I mean, and they said they would a while back. I know Alex mentioned that they would be showing clips of the Veveverse. I'm not sure. I'm sure there are reasons why. They have their own timelines, and they know exactly what's happening, right? We have limited information. Maybe there's a reason why. But you need to keep people engaged and invested in emotionally invested in the product. The Veveverse, once it's out, I think will definitely help support Veve collectibles on the secondary market because it gives them utility. It'll create enthusiasm again. Until then, you kind of got to, I do agree that it's nice to give people nuggets and little things to snack on, right? As they wait. Justin, yeah, man, I'm back. Glad to be back. I've got some collaborations coming up. Mr. V in the house. What's good, Mr. V? Great collector and creator. These recent Disney drops that come with airdrops that will be used towards crafting seem to help bring balance to value if people sell those airdrops. Yeah, I agree with this also. This is a good point. Building in like the pencils, if it's a good payoff with the desk, and I think that it will be, definitely helps create engagement and brings interest. I think we're going to see more things like this, more crafting. So they had the Sesame Street crafting thing this week, which was a little weird, I thought. I'm not going to knock it because I think it's cool, right? To be able to basically, it's gifting those holders another NFT, another collectible, right? If you had the Cookie Monster, if you had the Oscar, you're able to craft it and get another one with gold-plated which I think is all good to give people that. What I found a little strange about it, though, was the fact that they called the gold one secret rare when potentially you could mint like 5,500 cookie monsters, right? Because that's how many of the regular one exist. So that was a little strange to me because I think secret rare should imply secret rare, like a really rare. So it kind of, I think they need to protect their secret rare um, title so that it's not over, you know, used and diminished. So that was a little weird, but I think it hints at future use cases for crafting. And I think that, like Mr. V says, crafting the pencils, crafting those Sesame Street things, more of that, creating more engagement, giving more value to people, delivering on MCP, all these things will help turn things around and promote engagement. What's interesting in that Veve Fox data that showed that of the 33% of the new users that were still active 6 months later, they logged into Veve 4 times a month, right? And that's presumably to check on the market, to go for drops. Veveverse, I think, will definitely help with engagement if it is as hyped and as, you know, as people speak highly of it, right? And if all that is true, it's definitely going to help with engagement and making the platform more sticky, and perhaps with retention. Once people who are coming into Veve can now do something in the Veveverse and even engage socially, I think you'll see retention could pick up. So there's that also. Do you think this is enough to hold us over? I think it could get worse. I think they need to grow a bit more in order to. Now you're talking. So the Bitcoin halving is what, like 6 months away now? About 6 months away. But then you still have time for like the altcoins to come up. And we don't know. We haven't seen this space, this NFT space, digital collectible space, whatever you want to call it. We haven't seen it for more than one cycle to know how it's going to behave. If it behaves similar to last cycle and the hype comes in, you know, more like altcoin season at the end of altcoin season, you could have more than a year or so of runway that Veve needs to have in order to get them to a place where the whole space turns around. Because this is not a Veve problem. And that's important also to note when people talk about Veve and that tweet that I just read about how does anyone even buy on there anymore? Everything goes down or whatever it is. This is not a Veve problem. 95%, according to that study, of NFTs have gone to zero. Look at McFarlane. Everyone talked about interoperability. They talked about self-custody. They talked about pure Web3 and how when these things came into play in this space, that would usurp what Veve is doing. It would be bigger than Veve. And McFarlane currently has a fraction of the users that Veve has. They're newer and they only have really DC right now and Spawn. But look at the Batmobile drop, right? They're also struggling with their own user base and sales and secondary market. The Bane drop went well below. A lot of their drops have gone well below. Their Blue Beetle drop didn't sell out, went well below retail. It's not a Veve drop. It's a digital collectibles NFT space. It's not a Veve problem. It's a digital collectibles / NFT space bear market issue, right? It's the whole space has slowed down. So do I think that this is enough to hold them down? I think it'll be a little hard. I think they have to grow a bit. And I think that if they continue to grow, you're going to have spikes in growth. So I think they'll be okay because they're going to have, you're going to see spikes in growth around things like New York Comic Con, right? Which they said this time around, it's not going to be limited to Marvel drops. There will be special drops. I think you'll get big drops like, for instance, a Captain America #1 comic that comes out. When they drop their Yoda, even though it's not first on chain that has cryptoys, I think it'll generate a lot of enthusiasm. They'll still have their moments when they onboard a decent amount of people. And so I think they'll be okay. But I think they'll be better off if they adjust their edition sizes to meet their user base, because that gives us more confidence in what we're buying. It brings headlines. It brings more people in. We could talk about this being a collector's app all we want, right? But the truth is that it's also a play on the NFT crypto space. And you can't disregard that or, diminish the role that whole community plays in growing this space and in the I don't know about long term, but in the growth cycle of a company like Veve. So I do think that edition sizes would be helpful. Again, said it like 3 times now. Immutable X was listed as on a Korean exchange. Can only hope Omi will be next. Yeah, and I think that the Omi narrative would work well on a Korean exchange, right? When you talk about, so I think Immutable X popped a lot off of that and off. I think they also had partnerships with a Japanese company. I'm not sure. But I think that a lot of people, when you talk about places like Korea, Japan, I think the narrative of Omi and Veve can strike a chord in certain regions of the world and they can understand it. But any major exchange for Omi would be a big deal. NFTs are currently a meme. Yeah, 100%. Bear market, man. This is what it is. And, crypto goes through it too. How many memes are there about crypto and dropping 95%? Different assets. What's the percentage of crypto projects that have gone to zero, right? That doesn't mean that the whole sector goes to zero. It means that the strong survive. And that kind of, whenever I question something, I always go back to my thesis. And my original thesis with Veve was I wanted and Omi. I wanted a position in an NFT project, but I didn't know which one to pick. And one that had licensed IP to me made sense a year and a half ago, because it's not just a picture of a penguin, right? Spider-Man is here forever. Batman's here forever. So it made sense to me that if any company was going to survive the inevitable bear market, which we're now currently in, it was going to be Veve. And now we're in that bear market and Veve is in a bit of a slump. But my thesis, I believe, holds true, right? This is the whole reason why I picked them. And the product resonates with their strong foundation of collectors. People like them. Imagine when one day all the big IP on Veve will start to advertise their NFTs on their own social media platforms. It's in their own best interests. There's definitely a lot of, once NFTs go mainstream, once digital collectibles gain more adoption, and you saw it happen. So back in the first cycle of crypto, when there was just Bitcoin, people laughed it off. It was a scam. It was a Ponzi. It was a way for drug dealers to transact, right? Fast forward 10 years, it's now, crypto is now, I think, way more accepted in terms of people. I think most people realize that it's not going anywhere. Specifically Bitcoin, it's not going anywhere. Um, I think the same is going to happen to this space. The digital collectible space is going to be normalized. And when you have a company like Veve with the wide variety of things to choose from, it's a one-stop shop. And so that again goes back to my original thesis that supports like the original thesis that many of us have or had and still have. Cole's second point, they could reach hundreds of millions of people literally overnight. I don't know of any other company who can leverage that reach of the biggest brands in the world like this. There's certainly no other NFT digital collectibles platform. And they definitely have a unique opportunity. But again, they're doing it right. So Reeker had partnerships also. Reeker had Nickelodeon. They didn't have as many, obviously, but they had, college football is a big deal, NCAA, right? Whatever they called it. Their college football cards, whatever that they sold, that was a big deal. Nickelodeon's not a small brand. They had movie companies and licenses, and they failed because they didn't deliver it right. So it's not only the fact that Veve has this IP, it's the way they've packaged it and they've made it accessible. Because when you talk about if that Batmobile had dropped, the one on McFarlane had dropped on Veve, that would have sold out. The 1500 would have sold out in a second. Less than a second. All right? It would have sold out at that price point. 1500 of them. A fraction of that sold out. 70% of them sold on McFarlane. And I think that's because there are more barriers to entry there, right? It's Web3. And there are pluses to it. And there are things that hold it back, right? Self-custody I value self-custody. I love that about McFarlane. However, you need to be crypto literate. You need to know how to set up a MetaMask wallet. You need to know how to buy Matic someplace, transfer it over, and go through all these steps. Veve has everything built into an app, right? You click a button, it's connected to the App Store, it's seamless, smart. And so they have a wider net of people to pull from. So they've really done a good job with that. All right, now it's a matter of, again, getting through this tough bear market when interest in digital collectibles as a whole is no one's looking to buy, right? No one's scavenging through projects to see what the next NFT to pop off is. Many have left the space because of what that headline from Rolling Stone says, right? And the 95% of NFTs have gone to zero. So people have lost faith in the whole sector. I believe they'll come back. Remember, the time is now to buy. This is also true. And I was watching a Superstar Money video last week. They made a good point where they answered the question of, are they worried or should you be worried about Veve, right? It was kind of similar to this. And they also said, if you have conviction in the long-term success of Veve, then the price today shouldn't bother you. And that speaks to, like any investment, right? If prices are down, if you're correct, right? If you're not correct, then it can go to zero. But if you're correct and your thesis holds true, short-term price means nothing. It's the long-term perspective that you're looking at. Zetas says, buy the fear. Sir thrifts a lot. I'm going to go on a secret rare comic buying spree soon. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of, I was looking at Todd, Batman, the Todd was under 600 today, I saw. The Superman FA, a little over 300. Um, so definitely, I bought a Todd for about 800 a couple of maybe a month or so ago. But now cash out's available worldwide. Before, cash out was held up, and then it was only limited to the United States, I think, or North America, whatever it was. But now it's available to everyone. So you're getting that in the secondary market. You're watching prices bleed as people look to cash out. People who have either lost interest or are looking to just take their money and put it in crypto in order to capitalize on prices there. Oh, this is a great question. Who is the strongest Wu-Tang MC and why? All right. There are I don't know if there's one strongest. So if you're going for like style, it's Method Man for his flow, his voice. Overall, I think it's Method Man for flow, voice, lyricism. If you're going strictly lyricism, it's got to be Jizza. And then, of course, Inspector Deck. And then if you want to talk like the best narratives, you got to go with Raekwon and Ghostface. So it's hard, man, Wu-Tang. And then if you're talking about like personalities, it's Old Dirty Bastard, right? So Wu-Tang is forever. And so many good members to choose from. That's my answer, man. Good question. What's good, Patient Hodler in the house? What's going on, buddy? Felipe in the house. Secret Rare Spider is getting wrecked. What's that at? I want to say last I saw, it's like 6,000 now or something. Definitely. So here's the thing. People want to buy them at 30,000, 50,000. Cody Thrive was bought 3 at 25,000, but won't buy them at 5,000. And that's the whole psychology of it. Bear markets are psychologically super hard. And I'm not saying you should go out and spend $5,000 on it. But bear markets are really, really hard to get through. And psychology and collective psychology are really interesting. Ultimately, people need to make their own decisions and do their research and follow their conviction and be okay if they buy something and it goes down in value. But definitely some good deals out there. What's good, Crazy Dan? He passed me in McFarlane. I know. And McFarlane reset their XP. I haven't been I actually sold my signed Todd. I landed it on drop and I sold it recently last week because I'm trying to work towards my whole coin. So congratulations, Crazy Dan. You passed me, man. But now they reset it, so we're back to dueling. OG Vault. Can't stand that Vault guy. Yeah, man. OG Vault. Always good to hear from the homie. Is wokeism killing Disney? Damn, yeah. You know what, man? I know that Disney's struggling hard, man, and their valuation of their stock is like the lowest it's been in a long time, in part due to their political, I guess, stances and their battle with DeSantis and things like that. But then also, I don't know what impact, inflation and all this stuff has on them and oversaturation of their brand and everything. It's interesting to watch Disney. No such thing as bear market blues when you're a real boy. Yeah, I agree with this, Justin, man. I really am enjoying this bear market, specifically the crypto side of it, because that's where my heart and soul is in crypto and loading up there. So a lot of people are dejected. When I talk to my brother, who only buys in bull markets because he's foolish, but I talk to my brother and I tell him, he says, oh, something's at this price. I said, I hope it goes down lower. And his response is, why would you hope it goes down lower? Because he doesn't understand the fact that it's a short-term, price movement. If you're holding long term, the idea is to load up on assets, on things that you believe in that have strong fundamentals that you believe will do well long term. And so I don't have the blues during the bear market. I agree with Justin, quite the opposite. Wes, good point. You can also return a physical collectible for a full refund. You can't do that with digital. Also, true, there are distinctions. Not sure what's good. Disney has real problems. Wokeism has killed Disney much. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. There have been hints that Disney's gonna, or a lot of people talking about them selling and breaking up the company and then possibly selling to Apple eventually, but having to obviously break it up so that there are no antitrust things, and that the deal goes through. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to Disney. I'm sure they're going to be fine, right? Disney isn't going anywhere. I think that's also temporary. They wanted a good ESG rating, so they put ESG score. Yeah. To scare people. Yeah, this ESG thing, that's all political stuff that these companies do. Let's see what else. This Vault guy seems unstable. That's not true. Felipe, no refund on trading cards possible. And the blind box system is like buying trading cards. Yeah, so this is also a good point that Felipe makes, is that the blind box aspect of Veve is more like trading cards. And so I do think it's okay if some things go under retail, as long as like the rare, the ultra rare, and the secret rare go above. But if everything is under water, it's time to adjust those edition sizes. Veveverse stuff I'm seeing, I agree with this also, Steve-O. I do think that the Veveverse is going to excite people. When I talked to Sanjay about it on stream, when I hear people talking about it, it's always positive stuff. The collectibles seemingly look great on there, and you can interact in a lot of different ways. So I do think that Veveverse will be a game changer and a hub, and create some positive momentum. And you see that with Veve, and it's just like anything else. You'll have times when sentiment gets super low, and then they release some news or they release a new update or something, and then people get excited again and optimistic again. Then things die down. And, people start to question again, and then something else comes out. So, important to keep in mind also. OG Vault says, your mom is unstable in response to Wes. Let's keep it positive, guys. Let's see what else we got here. Creativity doesn't get boring. People have fun building stuff. Correct. And the Veveverse will also be limited by will only be limited by people's creativity. And it's going to open up, I think, many different avenues. It's going to open up avenues for creators, artists to sell their things, to showcase their things, for artists to build, for ways for people to connect. It's really the social aspect of Veve. The community is the secret sauce, right? Because you have even people who leave or who say they're leaving or stop buying, they're still around because they enjoy the community. And so I do think that there is an opportunity to pull them back in. Veveverse will help that. They overflooded the market with secret rares. Yes. I think for MCP and people buying them more, I think it was for sure they have their own strategies to sell things. To me, secret rare should be protected more. Should be super limited. And I think early on it was. As time has gone on, many drops have secret rares built in. And sometimes the edition sizes are big. to label the Cookie Monster crafting thing and the Oscar the Grouch crafting collectible as secret rares, to me, diminishes the title, and they need to protect that. It needs to mean something when you have a secret rare, right? Um, I'm a big level builder since a kid. I create levels, even worked with tools. Yeah, so definitely that's referring to Viviverse. Did BitBoy Crypto do something naughty for the space? BitBoy, man, this bear market is hit BitBoy hard, man. He's out there asking for handouts and money and things like that. But a couple months ago, he was sitting on a Lambo. So you can't post pictures of yourself decked out in a Gucci outfit, sitting on a Lamborghini and flaunt your wealth, and then 2 months later ask people for donations to pay your legal bills. While CZ says BitBoy still has $650,000 in assets on Binance under his control. So BitBoy is kind of a hot mess right now. 8,400 new users. Yes, we talked about this earlier. So, and again, that's not a huge number over the course of a year, but it's something. It's better than, it's way better than many companies literally going to zero and dying off. Yeah, I definitely think it's a decent amount during a bear market. Doesn't feel like it because we're not all active. They're not all active. So I think she said that there were 2,700 daily active users or something like this. So you have to figure if there are 2,700 daily active users and there's a drop that's not highly sought after, not all those people, not all the active people are going to go for the drop. So you can't have drops in this sort of market with 5,000 additions, right? Unless it's priced right or it's highly sought after. So you see things like the Star Wars vehicles, like 80% of them not getting sold. They have to, I think, fine tune that. BitBoy wants to hold his lifestyle. Correct. He doesn't know what it means. I think he does know what it means to be poor, but now that he's not poor, he wants to hold on to being rich. Yeah, everyone's vault value's down because of those 8,400, how many were retained, right? About a third of them, according to VV Fox's data, but not all of them are going for drops. So it's like VV is kind of like an ever expanding universe, right? Where every couple days there's a drop. So the VV universe is constantly expanding. The collectibles that they mint are constantly expanding. If their user base doesn't expand at the same pace, you're going to see vault values drop. That's kind of how that works, right? It's supply and demand. And when supply moves faster than demand, value drops. It's basic economics. Jeremy, Uncle Jeremy was tweeted about it. I should have bookmarked it. Many months ago, I saw it. I remembered it. And he talked about how in the collectibles industry, scarcity and, all that stuff is integral. And I think it's especially integral on this sort of platform where the secondary market is inextricably tied to the product, right? So again, not everything has to go. It's okay if not everything sells out. It's okay if some things go below retail, but the 90% of things shouldn't go below retail, right? When that's the case, it's time to adjust edition sizes. And they did adjust edition sizes from, the peak, right? I forget how many Boba Fett's were minted, but it was like tens of thousands, I think. It's crazy amount, right? There were huge edition sizes. And they did shrink them down, but they need to shrink a little more because supply in this ever-expanding universe of VV collectibles is exceeding the pace of growth. And so they need to slow supply down to hold things together. It's my opinion. My vault stays the same because I keep buying. That's one way to keep it up, buddy. When North Korea coin. You guys want to talk a little bit about OMI? Let's do that for a second. Give me 1 second. Let me definitely want to talk about OMI. Let me just pull some stuff up. Let me unshare this screen. Share another one. This one. Boom. So last we spoke, last time I streamed was OMI was about, it was a few weeks ago. OMI was like 0009 or something like that. I said I expected it to go down further, probably into the 0007s, because I expected Bitcoin to drop for a number of reasons. And OMI went down. It's holding up pretty strong, though, I think, at 0008. It did dip into the 0007 range for a bit. I think it wicked down to 0079, but it did come back up. People bought that. And it's been holding strong support in the 0008 range. But I do think that there's potentially more downside for OMI, mainly because I think that there is more downside coming for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's not out the woods. All right, I think that typically we talked about a double bottom happening oftentimes, and how a lot of people expect, and I agree with them, that Bitcoin will go in to retest the lower 20s area. And I think if and when that happens, and there's still a lot of time before the halving, right? Bitcoin we have a lot of time. We got a good 6 months or so until the halving, and so it's plenty of time for volatility. And OMI. Now, I don't know it all, but I knew that this would sell off. The 0012. And when I said that, someone in the comments, if you're here, reveal yourself, said that they were going to play the inverse Danny, and that I was going to be wrong. All right. And that I didn't know what I was talking about, and that it wouldn't go down. But this is very typical, right? Things pump off news, positive sentiment, utility, right? So the utility news pumped it back to 0012. It was inevitable that it was going to sell off. And my thoughts were that it was going to catch a higher low, right? And we did that. I think there's still room for downside if Bitcoin and the whole market goes down a bit more, which I think it will. All right. The Fed has, for a couple of reasons. One, historically, Bitcoin double bottoms. Two, the Fed has struck a more hawkish tone lately, right? So, or most recently, they've talked about maintaining high interest rates for a longer period of time. Three is that eventually a pivot will come, but historically speaking, markets dump 40% on a pivot, on a Fed pivot, right? We're talking about that when they announced that interest rates drop. So I think that there's some downside, some volatility in store for the overall market, and I think that OMI will be affected by that. That's my short-term OMI perspective. Let's see what we got in the chats. I was going to buy more Omi, but Genie was at 17 bucks. So that money went out the window. Yeah. I had, so a couple months ago, I said I was waiting to buy Omi. I had hit my limit and I was waiting for utility. Now we got utility. Because there are many things to buy, right? I don't just buy Omi. I think a lot of people in the community only know Omi or only buy Omi, but there are a ton of things to purchase. So there are many options. But I'd paused my Omi buying because I wanted them to make progress. They've made progress. And now I'm considering DCAing again and just accumulating a little more Omi during this bear market, in addition to some other coins. But I would DCA even at 0008. I do think it'll go down and retest the 0007 range. And could possibly even go back in to retest the bottom. You never know. It's a bear market and volatility. This is a very volatile space. So we shouldn't take things for granted that, it can't go back down. What's up, Bull Squad? What's up, Poppy? Thanks for supporting the channel, becoming a channel member. Justin, we need to get the kids hooked on NFTs and spending all their monies. Yes, sir. Let me jump down to the chat. I've got a couple more things to go through. Here we go. Yes, Wes, very aware. A Bitcoin ETF will get approved. However, I think it will get approved next year. All right. So between now and next year, I expect more volatility. So why do I think a Bitcoin, and I could be wrong, right? The SEC could come out and approve a Bitcoin ETF, a spot ETF next week. I don't think they will. I think they're going to wait because historically, one, Gary Gensler's waging a war on crypto, right? And so I don't think he's going to give that to us just yet. Two, they historically wait for deadlines to make any decision. And I think their next deadline for the BlackRock ETF is January, but then they can push it back to April. And so my belief, and I could be 100% wrong here, is that I do think a Bitcoin ETF will get approved. However, I don't think it will be until 2024. And so from now until then, I expect volatility, Wes. And that's it. All right. Bitcoin was trading at $31,000. A lot of people thought we were pumping to 40. We were feeling good about ourselves. It sold off. If you look at Bitcoin historically prior to a halving year, look at the last cycle. Check out the last 2 months of how it performed in 2019. I think it was down 19% 1 month, down 14%, another 14% in December. It tanked at the end of the year. I don't know if that's going to happen again, but I do expect, you have to expect volatility. We're in a bear market, Wes. But I do think the ETF will get approved, and I think that next year could be a perfect storm. So I'm conflicted on the next cycle for crypto. On one hand, part of me thinks, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Part of me thinks that there could be a perfect storm brewing for crypto next cycle because you've got a potential Bitcoin ETF, multiple Bitcoin ETFs, right? Getting approved, which is going to flood the sector, or at least that coin, with money, right? And institutional money. Not only that, it's going to legitimize Bitcoin more, make it more of a mainstay, which will in turn legitimize the whole space. So that's one part of the perfect storm. Two, you've got the halving event coming around April time. right? Historically, we know what happens at the halving. Three, you've got potential pivot from the Fed. They can only keep interest rates high for so long, right? The higher the interest rates, the more we're paying on our national debt, the more you're hurting businesses, people on their credit cards, mortgage rates, crushing a housing market. Eventually, they're going to have to bring down interest rates. And then, if the last 20 years are right, turn on the money printers again, right? Get back to their band-aid that they use to put on the whole economy, which is to print more money. So in one respect, I can see a perfect storm brewing and, catapulting the space to new levels. However, I always see both sides of an argument. The flip side is maybe we head into recession. Maybe the Fed doesn't pivot until later in the year. And what if the halving doesn't have quite the effect that it used to have and sentiment turns? Or what if there is a possibility that they decline the ETF, right? I expect it to happen. We don't know. Bitcoin has never existed in a recession. It's never gone through a recession. We don't know if it's how it fares. It's also only existed in favorable macro times when the money printer's been like going at like 100%. And so it'll be a new environment. So it's going to be interesting, right? On the one hand, the optimist in me thinks we're headed for a perfect storm of all these events that are going to push the crypto space to new heights and pump Bitcoin and pump all the altcoins. On the flip side, in the back of my mind, I think, what if there's a recession and how does that affect Bitcoin and crypto? A couple of other interesting tweets that I saved. This is a good one. So this was tweeted by Veve Viral. I've seen it on Altcoin Daily and other places. This is a great visual to show you, to illustrate the cycle and how things work. And if you look at from 2011, the bear market, pre-bull, the halving, right? The first bull is during the halving year, and then the year after the halving. Typically, things sell off about 18 months after. And if you look at every single cycle after, well, the two that followed, they were pretty much almost identical. And if you look at this current cycle that we're in, it's following suit, right? Look at 2023, bit of a recovery, same as 2029, recovery. 2015, some recovery, more so towards the end of the year. 2012, recovery. And then what happens during the halving year? Slow build, slow build. This was a bigger build. But then things take off, right? Post-halving. The second bull run, whatever you want to call it, the year that follows. So will history repeat itself? It's interesting. And Viral tweeted, it's hard to think it's hard to think like a bull this deep in the bear market. But last run, OMI went from 4 zeros to 1 in a matter of 5 weeks. And Bitcoin gained 600 billion in market cap in a matter of 1 quarter. So again, it feels bad in a bear market. It doesn't feel good to get through all of this that we've been through 2022, 2023. But look how fast the gains are made. You're talking about, for some alts, they go 10x, 20x, 30x, 50x, 100x, 1000x in a very short amount of time during a bull run. It's hard to envision that during a time like this. Historically, it's happened 3 cycles in a row for Bitcoin, the last 2 cycles for altcoins. And we're going to see if it plays out this year and how high things go. Are we headed for a perfect storm of, great conditions? Specifically, also, I forgot, like the regulatory, perhaps getting regulatory clarity, right, is another perhaps bullish driver of prices. But there was also a good response here from Veve Digital Collectibles. Bitcoin is king and will lead the bull run like in every cycle. It's your job in this market to pick the winners. In my opinion, OMI will not recover to all-time highs, just like 90% of other coins. And that's his perspective. I don't get mad at people for having a different opinion. He goes on to say, so Veve Viral retorts and says if a whole 10% will recover it back to their all-time highs, right? 90% don't go back to all-time highs. He thinks OMI is going to be in that 10% that does recover to all-time highs because it's a fully diluted token. It's deflationary. It's a metaverse token, and they work with Disney and all that stuff, right? Plus the fact that we have not yet hit exchanges, and most utility, 95% of utility is still ahead, hasn't been released yet. So very solid point. Let me give this guy a like. Veve Viral. And then Veve Digital Collectibles comes back. Then how come they didn't implement all those utilities exchanges in the last 3 years? Look at the tokenomics. The token was a pure pump and dump to create liquidity. So I don't agree with this. We know the reason why they didn't implement those utilities. It's because they had to change their tokenomics plan because of fear of regulation, right? So they had the reserve wallet. They had to shift their whole game plan. Look at the tokenomics, pure pump and dump to create liquidity. I do think that it was the token was created to raise money, part of it, but I do not believe it was a pump and dump. I think if you come to your senses, go outside and face reality, there's a very big chance OMI doesn't make it and will be left out. The team knows this, but there's no way they're going to express this. So I don't agree with, and I respect Sound Money, Veve Digital Collectibles. I think he's smart. I respect his opinion. I do think that many will not go back to previous all-time highs, but I think that that's also a flawed metric that we use. When we talk about 95% of coins aren't going back to their all-time highs, I think that's flawed because we only have one. So the ICO craze and the altcoin craze really kickstarted in 2017. So we only had that cycle and their next cycle to create. So 90 to 95% of coins from 2017 didn't go back to all-time highs in 2021. That's only looking at one cycle. As the space grows, the majority of projects in crypto are meaningless. They are used to extract money from people, to pump, to dump. I agree with that. However, as the space grows, there are going to be more legitimate projects, more projects with more coins with use cases. And so it's hard you can't say that historically 95% go to zero. There's such a small history to base it off of. That's a very flawed data point, in my opinion. Because now as time goes on, so from this last cycle, you have a bunch of coins like Aave, like, Sand's not going anywhere anytime soon. Decentraland, they're still building things out. ApeCoin is still developing. Yuga Labs is still developing. These aren't pump and dumps. Now, they might not go back to all-time highs, but I do think that um, more will than did last cycle, if that makes sense. Would you consider doing these streams on Rumble or X? I want to delete YouTube as I do not support their stance on free speech. I mean, if it depends on what it's like, what the platform is like, access to people. My main concern is reaching people, right? And so right now I'm able to reach anyone who wants to watch my stuff on YouTube. And this is the place where they go. It's interesting to watch things play out with Russell Brand and how he was deplatformed over there and not on X. And I do value free speech, but I also, I'm not looking to I don't make political statements with my streams. But if X offered an opportunity to reach people and made it easy access and integrate everything, I would consider streaming on X. Let me go back to and blockchain Rick Jane said the same thing. Keep in mind that most tokens never get back to their all-time highs. This is a common thing that people say to dismiss the idea or the possibility of a coin going back to previous all-time highs. But there's only been one real cycle to base that off of, right? The 2017 cycle. We haven't seen coins that were birthed in this last 2021 cycle, 2020 cycle. We haven't seen them go through their second cycle. All right. So super flawed metric in my perspective. Another thing to consider is you don't necessarily need OMI. It would be great for OMI to go back to all-time highs. I don't necessarily need it to. Even if it went back to its local high of the last cycle, which was 0008, right? It went up to a penny and a half, and then it dumped, and it never quite got back up. It stalled at 0008. Even if it went to 0008, which I think is very achievable in a bull market with the community, that's a 10x, right? And so we get caught up on 50x, 100x. That's still a 10x. And if you average down or if you take advantage of the bear market, you don't need something to go back to a previous all-time high to make good money, right? It's just a matter of selling at the right time. Blockchain Rick James always seems miserable. I think that he's disgruntled, upset with Veve, the team, etc. And I don't fault people for having opinions or feeling, right? Everyone's entitled to feel how they feel. I don't think that he's smart. As long as you can provide, even if I don't agree with someone. So I didn't agree with what Sound Money said, Veve Digital Collectibles. I didn't agree with what he said, but I can extract value from some of what he says, or it can inform my perspective. So, it's all good. Veve Viral had a good response. There's plenty of reasons to believe that the Veve community will be plenty alive come next bull run, something that most tokens don't have. This is true. And this is something that I heard Daniel Lee also talk about. If you look at tokens that have strong communities, they will stay alive. The coin will come back. It'll perform well, right? Because the community will drive it. Cardano, ADA, really strong, one of the strongest communities, had no utility for a long time. Went to $1.50 its first cycle. So if you look at that chart, and let's do it. Let's go to ADA. Look at the all-time chart. If you look at just this early part of it, this is the OMI chart. It was launched. It was hyped. It peaked at over $1. Had a massive market cap. Went over $1 in that first cycle. 2018. Crashed. Bounced back up to 35 cents. Crashed to pennies, 3 cents. And it lingered there for a long time. Well over a year, Cardano was under 5 cents. But it had a strong community. It had people who believed in it. The next bull market came, and the narrative of L1's hit, right? And that's also important, is narrative in crypto. The narrative L1's was strong last cycle, and we saw what happened. It went to $3 or maybe just under $3 with no utility, basically, right? They just released their smart contracts in like September, August of that year of 2021. No utility. So here's a token that not only hit its all-time high, it blew past it, in part because of its community. It had a strong community that believed in it. And I'm not saying that OMI is like ADA, but the OMI community is strong, the same way that XRP has a strong community. Now, XRP did not go back to all-time highs last cycle, but it still did well based off of the bottom, right? It was, so look at XRP, Ripple. All crypto charts look the same. They come out, they pump, they dump, right? It's hype. People buy the hype. Dumps off. A little bit of a resurgence, flatline, and then the bull market hits. Ripple did not get back to all-time highs last cycle, but its price was suppressed because of obviously the lawsuit, and it was delisted on a bunch of major exchanges. So, but even if you bought XRP at 20 cents during the bear market, it did a 6x or a 7x in the bull. That's not bad. So not everything has to go back to all-time highs. I do agree. So then Sound Money, he said somewhere, I missed it, but he talked about how don't bet on one altcoin. Right? So I can disagree with him when he says that. I disagree. I think that there is a shot that OMI gets back to all-time highs. Disagree there. But he in another tweet in the same thread, he said, don't go all in on one altcoin. I agree with that, because it's a wild, irrational space. You never know what can happen. And it's good to, I don't over diversify, but I'll have a handful of stuff, and then I'll have a handful of smaller positions, because you never know what can happen. X showed Tucker was getting 3 million views on Fox, but got over 200 million views on X. Yeah, I think this is correct by OG Vault here. X counts just scrolling by the video as a view. It's true. Does Veve need real competitors in the space in order to be viable amongst the masses? I do think that it helps to have competitors because it legitimizes the space. And it creates an industry. So, and I think that McFarlane does give them that competition, even though they're just getting started. But I think that they have potential to do well, right? Obviously, because they're back, they have the physical side is so well established. The name is well established. If Todd McFarlane ties to the industry and all this IP. So I think they will be competition, and I think that you will see other competitors emerge, and I think that it would benefit Veve. Do they need them to be viable? I don't. I don't know that they need them, but I think that it definitely helps them. Because again, you have an industry and it legitimizes the whole space when there are a number of platforms in the sector, especially when you have big names in there like Todd McFarlane. I think that's a good thing for the space. And so that's why I say I want to see these other platforms succeed. I want to see Cryptoys succeed. And I think that they can occupy different niches within the space. So maybe McFarland appeals to the Web3 purist, and Cryptoys maybe appeals to a younger crowd, and it's more of like, could be more of a gaming experience. And then Veve has its own niche, right? Easily accessible digital collectibles from all like the IPs and this one-stop shop. And there'll be something for everyone. So those are my thoughts there. I'm going to round it out right now. Did about an hour and a half. I want to thank you all for coming through. It was a good time chatting. And I'll be back next week with a couple of streams. I think I'm going to be on Veve Arcade's channel. He invited me on. Maybe even tomorrow. I got to see how my schedule aligns with his. But definitely this week I'll be jumping on Veve Arcade's channel. And I'll be streaming here some collabs, some solo stuff. Thanks for coming through. As always, I hope you all enjoy the weekend. Catch you the next one. Peace out, guys.